to order the January County Town Council meeting today, Tuesday the 21st, 2025. So we start the agenda with apologies for absence. We've already seen the apologies for absence this evening. And this time we're asked to receive the apologies for absence. So I'll accept the apologies for absence. So do we accept the apologies for absence? Yes, we do. All in favour, thank you. Declarations of interest. I think I read the whole thing out, don't I? No, I don't. Okay, does anybody have any disclosable pecuniary, other interests, request for dispensation, or need to report any gifts or hospitality received, or any inappropriate gifts or hospitality offered?
No.
Seeing none. We'll move on to minutes of previous meetings. So you will all have a copy of the full council meeting for the 17th of December 2024. Are there any questions or matters arising from those that people want to raise? In that case, I need a proposer and seconder to sign the minutes, please. I still need a proposer and seconder. So David, thank you for proposing. Liz for seconding. All those in favour? Yep. Wonderful, thank you. Next item is participation from interested parties or members of the public. For maximum 15 minutes, we have the CEO of Citizens Advice with us. Sir, would you take the floor?
Yes, sir. I would like to thank you.
If you stand there, then I won't click my neck.
Yeah, that's probably the best place. Good evening and thank you for inviting me this evening. I'm Phil Arkle, I'm CEO of Citizens Advice North Northants, and I'm here to ask your support for an advice desk for Oundle, for providing generalist advice to local people. We are aware that there is a lack of advice services in East Northants generally. They tend to be concentrated more in the urban centres. And you kindly supported us with a pilot study, and we provided you with a report. The pilot study we thought was really quite successful for a new service that people aren't aware of, for us to secure 28 clients and to generate £9,200 for those clients was quite significant. I think what's also important is that we don't just deal in benefits and debt. We support people with family issues, employment issues, housing issues, and you'll see in the report we helped a group of residents who were having difficulties with an increase in service charge. We help older people with attendance allowance, pension credit, carers allowance. So I think what we've managed to do in the 8 weeks that we delivered the service, and I must say we're still getting people asking where we are on a Thursday, so it has got into the local mentality, the local psyche, that it's a service that is valued. We would like to continue it. Sadly, we don't have the funds to be able to deliver a service unless we're able to generate income from groups like yourself. So I'd like to ask you to consider my application. For a weekly service, it would be £10,400 per annum. It is possible to do a fortnightly service or a monthly service, but sadly, the difficulty is that if people know that we're here every Thursday, then people will come. But when you're here every other Thursday, people will come on the wrong Thursday, and then they won't come back. And that's the difficulty. So I would really recommend a weekly service. We trialled it on the Thursday because that's market day. We seem to get quite a lot of footfall. And so I'd like you to consider my application. If you've got any questions.
Please do, David.
You haven't mentioned it, but I'm pretty certain. One thing I think that's become really endemic recently is cybercrime. And I'm just wondering the sort of support that you can offer, or we could advertise, because I think as an IT guy, it's awful and it's far too much, and it comes in many forms. I mean, I've had a debt collection letter from a company that says I owe money to a mail order form, and I've never used a mail order form in the last 30 years. So that you're thinking of vulnerable other people who would take that and they pay the 350 quid they want because it's settling a debt that's supposed to be £1,000. And that's only happened in the last month. I think I'm really behind this. I think it's brilliant. I also feel that perhaps, and this is up to Emma and her team, but perhaps we could promote it more in the local community. I also think it has an impact on the villages because it's on market day and that's when people come in town. It's the best day to do it, to be honest. But I'm behind it. It's just, it'd be nice to know the sort of, because what would be a pull? You've already got people coming in, but there might be an additional pull on the cybercrime.
I mean, we can certainly talk to people about cyber risks.
Yes.
You know, sort of, if that's what people are concerned about, and we can, you know, one of the great things about Citizens Advice is that we do signpost people. So if we don't know the answer, we generally know who does, and we can help people to get the information, because sometimes it's really quite specific. Equally, if somebody came to one of our advice desks and said, look, I've had this email and I really don't know what to do, we could look at the email and you know, establish whether it may or may not be a scam.
Yeah,
Email. So, you know, we can do, there's only a certain amount that we can do, because, I mean, my mother gets calls, you know, once a week from somebody saying something, and she gets various emails that always get forwarded to me. So it is a difficult problem, but we cover all sorts of areas and issues, and if that is an area and issue that people want support with, then we would certainly do what we can to meet that need.
It's a number of years ago, we used to have an East Northants CAD. They used to have an office effectively in Thrapston as well through the town council. I'm wondering, are you working with any of the other town councils locally? Point one, and point two is a spin-off, and it picks up on what David was saying. We're very much a kind of hub for a considerable rural hinterland. How do we let the rural hinterland know that this facility is here? And assuming that there was evidence to show that people from that rural hinterland started to come in, would you be looking to try and get some funding out of their parish councils, for example, where they have them?
If I can establish demand, then I'm very happy to create applications to a whole range of different donors, whether that's a local parish council or the local Lions Club or Rotary or whoever else might agree to support. In terms of other town councils, well, we used to get a considerable amount of money from Kettering and Crawley town councils. Obviously, things have changed now, but I do put in a grant application to them each year. We used to be just Citizens Advice Crawley and Kettering, and we became Citizens Advice North Northants in November of last year. So we're spreading our wings because there is no Citizens Advice East Northants anymore, and we recognise that there is a vacuum that we want to fill. So I'm talking to Wellingborough as well. You know, sort of, so I'll talk to anybody that can support Burton, Latimer, Desborough, Rothwell. You know, sort of everybody's on my radar, because unfortunately that's the only way we can get these services to the people that need them most.
Of course. Well,
I think it's a sort of service that we should be consistently looking to support. Seems like the funding elsewhere is quite sporadic, which isn't helpful for the service, so I'm supporting the idea. But just in terms of forecasting future numbers, there are 28 inquiries in this pilot phase. When you set up new centres elsewhere with a similar kind of demographic as we have here, do you have a sense of the rate of the next year? Will we pick up?
I wouldn't expect it to pick up in terms, I would expect 4 or 5 people on any one day. Simply because each person, you know, the average time for a person is between half an hour and an hour. Sometimes it's,
So the representative.
yeah. It just depends what the issue is that somebody brings. So sometimes somebody will turn up and they'll need a PIP form completing. Well, that's a 2-hour process. If they want to see whether or not they can claim more benefits, or they've got debt issues. So, you know, so we generally work on about an hour per person, because we've also got to write up the case notes, and the case notes then go to our quality checkers. So every case note is checked for its accuracy and its appropriateness. It's all part of our quality guarantee.
Wonderful. Jamie.
Did you want to carry on? No, sorry, okay. Well, I personally experienced citizens quite open to Dawn and Peterborough, so I know what a great job you guys do. But just a question about funding: is it? Are you a registered charity? Is that? Yeah. So
yeah.
So is it a case that someone could donate anything they wanted to a charity in the same way?
Yeah.
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 Okay. That's just what I wanted to know about funding. So that's fine.
Citizens Advice is the national body is an umbrella organisation, but we're all independent charities within it.
Okay, that's interesting.
Thank you.
I'm not against CAB, far from it, but I'm just looking at the details a little bit. Are you proposing to pay? No, I'll start again. How wide is your net spread in terms of which parishes, if you like, would be dependent upon what our people who live in Anvil would call the ratepayers? Still, they still use that word.
So, well, we would see whoever came.
And where are you now?
Oh, now we've got an office in Corby and Kettering.
Right.
Then in terms of outreach venues, we do support the food bank here. We have food bank support in Wellingborough, Corby and Kettering at multiple locations. We work in the Children's Centre in Corby. We work in 2 of the most deprived communities in Corby, in Kingswood and Hazel Lees. So we're very well spread. At the moment, most of the people that need advice in East Northants, particularly around here, they have to get on a bus to come into Corby to see us, or we have to deliver a telephone appointment. By being here, it makes it easier for people to get advice. And
that was your point, that if we're paying for it, how many people from other parishes are paying for it? Is that?
Yeah.
oh, well, I mean, sort of, you mean, could somebody from Corby, for example, come and access the service here? I mean, we can say that it is specifically for people within certain postcodes, but we have to collect addresses as part of the process. But that would obviously, I suspect we're not going to get too many people coming to Oundle.
You're likely to get people from Warmington or Barnwell or other places around that we're funding for. But we'll take that separately. I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah.
Yes, I know you are, but in answer to that question, I would strongly suggest that we take a lead in this part. This is East Northants. So in East Northants, as in the new boundaries, Oundle, you've got Kingscliff, there's I don't know if Thrapston's part of East North, it is actually. But we should be prepared to take the lead as the main town and people, and this is part of that cost, and not worry about somebody coming from Kingscliff or somebody coming from Massington in, because this is part of us supporting our community, wider community.
I think what I'd like to do is just draw this to a close by asking if there are any other questions of this gentleman. We can talk about how and where we support later in the meeting. We've got a separate item
Yeah.
to discuss whether we're actually going to support but are there any other questions now about support that's in the Wonderful, okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation, really interesting.
Yeah.
We will be discussing whether we will support later on, but I think we've got a feel from the room. And then Emma will be in touch at some stage.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much indeed.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. So it's 24120. Consideration of requests from interested parties, if we haven't got any, thank you. So we move on, Northlands Council. Anybody?
Ian did say that he'd spoken to Helen, she said that she probably wouldn't come, so she's technically given her appointments.
He did, he's mentioned it within the mayor's report, and we wanted to note that even though she's not here tonight, she was here on Friday, so she is supportive of the town. Sorry? Sorry, Val. So Helen Harrison was here on Friday, and Ian's reported that in the mayor's report. I will speak. Next section, 24123 town matters. First item, to receive an update from correspondence regarding the medical practice and agree next steps. It's important that Rupert isn't here. He's been doing a great job in chasing this through. There's been an enormous amount of correspondence of late on this, but the essence of that correspondence is that Rupert is suggesting that a small team of people, including him, Lita, Emma, and perhaps one of Ian or Mia, so we're not making it too big, to Biddle, who is Lee Barron's sidekick, I'm sure there's a better name for it than that, and the ICB. Ian thinks it needs approval of this meeting. Can I assume we have approval, or do we need to vote on it?
I'll propose it.
Opposed, seconded. If you're in favour, that meeting going ahead, and a report back from Rupert later on this year. Thank you very much.
It's just been.
Next item, to consider a request from a resident to install pedestrian access. This is from one part of town to another to save 300 yards walk. So, interested in taking views on that before we move to the next steps. Rob.
So, I live near the connecting points, so I'm somewhat of an interest in this, but also perspective on the particular surrounding question and the benefits of agreeing. I think the benefits are not just the reduction in the time it takes to walk from one estate to the other, but it's that connectedness of communities in Angle, which are artifactually boundaried out by the individual estates. So I think with Connect, for instance, the St Christopher's Drive playground we're talking about today again, with other residents in Angle, where you can use that for not necessarily isolated. In fact, walkway to be connected, we'd actually link together the playground on Midcote Drive with our St Christopher's Drive playground, with a new playground on the new estate. So those three communities are linked together into town. There's also a wildlife aspect to this. They're looking for wildlife corridors throughout, or it creates a wildlife corridor. So in principle, I think it's a really.
I think it's great, but how is it paid for? This is the issue. Is it an S106? Because something like that would cost. We haven't got an idea of costing. I didn't see anything in there about costing. But I get the idea, but where's the money coming from? That's
Thank you. Any other comments or thoughts?
It's really just picking up on that point. It's not just funding constructing it, but presumably would then become responsible for maintaining it effectively in perpetuity. So it's no small thing. And even if we got some Section 106 funding, it's a capital one-off sum.
So the legal fees.
It will go, and then suddenly we're faced with that sort of expenditure. And it's one of the reasons why we've been reluctant, for example, to commit to town council funding playgrounds on developments and such like, because it's an expensive business. So it's fine in principle, but there's a fair old cost element to this sort of things. I don't know. Does it serve a huge number of people at the end of the day? I'm not sure that it would.
Thank you. My own views, I'll just express them around the table again. I want to see a cost benefit. I read the report and it's persuasive, and I take Rob's points, that it would connect communities together, but there will be a cost. There's a limited company selling it. They will be duty bound to get the most they can for it. And then the council is being asked not just to pay that cost, but to pay the legal costs, to pay the cost of installing the park, to pay the cost of maintaining the park. I don't know how many people use it. The only thing I've got from this is that some people would like it. But to put this in perspective, if 20 people said they'd use it and it costs £25,000, no. If 100 people say they use it and it costs us £500 a year, yes. I don't know where we sit in that, so I want much more information. In principle, I think it's a decent idea, but we need to know much more before we as a council consider it, is my view. Did you want to come back on that?
Very reasonable, it's absolutely. I think the principle is very good, but we need more information, so I completely agree. I think there's a risk whenever we discuss anything, we start to divide it by number of residents. We've had a similar conversation around the courthouse, for instance.
Yeah.
So I think it's reasonable to think how many residents will benefit. We'll not ask people, because of course they can't do so, but they don't think it's even a possibility to link the two together. But I think before we close it down, I think. Exactly.
I don't hear anybody closing it down. I'll continue on, David.
Well, I was just going to say, can we perhaps investigate these costs a bit more and then delegate this to the Estates Committee to come back with a recommendation, do you thought? Thank you. Emma.
That's why, well, I was just going to say, who's going to do the next steps? What are those next steps, if we're going to do them?
For me, the sense I have around the is that this warrants further investigation. I think we should delegate this to the Estates Committee and ask them to liaise with the individual who's making this proposal. And frankly, they can do some of this work. They want it. So, let them survey the users, let them find out, for example, they're saying it will stop people driving into town because they can walk. I don't know how many people are still driving into town to grab their shopping, because if there's an older demographic, saving 300 yards on carrying a heavy bag of shopping is not going to work because they've still got to walk 450 yards. So I think more work is to be done, but I think we're not closing it down as a council. No, let's give it to estates. Is that reasonable?
I think so.
Yeah.
Move on. A verbal report, interestingly, from Ian on ideas for VE Day to consider further actions. Ian has talked about this in his May's report, which I'm sure with other commitments around the town, potential for a jazz concert in the evening in the Great Hall, perhaps even invite the Lord Lieutenant over as part of the festivities, and maybe even use him to open the field as a subdivision. And so really what Ian wants is approval or support from councillors to keep talking to the British Legion and to keep talking to the schools so he can coordinate activities and perhaps report back to council in February.
Gets my vote.
Yeah.
We've got to do something. I mean, I asked, just a quick thing, as the chair of the Museum Trust, I asked what they were thinking of doing, and there's an idea that they would support something that if we had something, I don't know, I mean, I've got two other trustees here. It was the impression that if we did something as the council, then they might be interested in supporting it by doing a display, but that's all the museum can be expected to. I think we must do something, because,
Well, we should.
it's a no-brainer. So I think we should say to Ian, carry on, please.
Are we all agreeing on that? Yeah. Thank you. Next item, to receive a report, to receive an update following the emergency hub meeting with Northampton County Council Emergency Planning Officer. Emma, you were going to give a brief summary of this, or do you want to?
Yes, I can do. We had a meeting last week, and myself, Morag, Ian popped in for a bit of it, and John was there. And we had an emergency planning officer from North Northants Council come and speak to us, basically to talk about how they want to move forward with places like Houndall and taking more of a control of if there is a disaster, then we have a support hub, an emergency hub that involves a building, but also involves groups of people, residents coming together, so that if there is an emergency, then we're ready to deal with it, because not necessarily North Northants Council won't be coming in and taking over and running the show. It's more handing over to the residents. I mean, we had a few questions about that because of how, you know, basically we do need somebody that's going to take the lead, but we are going to be given training. Not quite sure what sort of training that will be, but we're all quite positive at the end of it, to the point to continue with our plans.
The only thing I'd add to that, so thank you for that summary, is essentially saying it's a graduated response. So it's something that could be developed or dealt with at street level, it should be. If it's something neighbourhood level, it should be. At some stage, an emergency, be it flooding, fire, gas, Putin's bombs, at some stage it will need to cascade upwards. And NNC, like every other county council, is short of funds, they can't do everything, and so they're asking for us to be an interim step between the local community and them.
We have an exercise like that. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just really not asking for anything, general support for continuing to work on this. I don't think we're going to get any training or anything for 6 months or so.
No,
But nothing must happen in the next 6 months.
That's what I'm saying.
Just to say something about this. I wrote a paper for the emergency tube thing on Peter, but basically, I have been involved. The floods we've had so far have not been as bad as some of the floods in the past. So at one point in about 2002, I can't remember, it was before Emma came on board, we were half an hour from evacuating people into Houndall School, CCF. I was ready on the phone, ready to go down and say, you're coming with us, out you go. It's on your drive down the bottom, on your where you live, at the bottom where that house is on the corner.
yeah,
They were half an hour away from being evacuated, amongst other people around there. And so the two things, so that was one, and then the other thing that's happened is we were asked, I've got us to be onto a planning exercise where Fletton House was the centre, and proving that Fletton House can be used as an evacuation centre. And that was a flood with deaths and injuries. So they got these actors to come in with pretend injuries. And in fact, it was very weird because the Red Cross took over and basically did everything. So we do have a Red Cross thing. So that was another thing. But at the end of the day, although you have these supporting agencies, when you have a problem, we did an exercise, which I again described when I did some emergency planning against the flood warning, where they gave us a scenario and they said you were alone. This town was cut off, alone, for 3 days. No police, no nothing. So we then had to plan what we would do, using the church and various buildings. And then they told us it was real, and it happened in Dorset.
It is interesting, we do need to do something with people. People look to us if there is a problem. So,
Yeah, we did
but
have
to the point we're saying earlier on, let's hope it doesn't happen in the next 6 months. Or the 18 months since we said we'd have an emergency.
So we do have some things to bear in mind. We have a resource called Houndall School, which is like a mini town. I don't know if I've worked in Houndall School. So
he actually said that they tend to not use schools as emergency hubs. He didn't give a reason why, but he did say they tend to stay away from schools. Because obviously if the school were if
Don't be looking
people
after
were
kids.
there, we wouldn't.
Yeah, but if
So-
it's not that time, you have a complete service department. They've got everything. They can feed, they can accommodate, feed.
I suspect the thing to do will be,
But that's not-
just to take the update, we will be on this, it is one of the matters of the
Yes.
Arch report, so watch this space.
Yeah, we have some experience, but actually we need, that's basically it.
Correct. Next section, council matters, first matter 241240 to receive report. Little else to mention, particularly wanted me to mention thanks to Hill Road.
Yes, that's been done.
Which has been great. Any questions on Mayor's report?
No, but
Wonderful. Next item, 241240 to receive the clerk's report. Any questions on the clerk's report? Anything you want to mention about your report, Anna?
No, I haven't really got anything.
Next item to consider, 241240 to consider and respond to the government's consultation on strengthening the standards and conduct framework for local authorities. Ian's asked me to, or asked you to consider, to review it and consider feedback, perhaps to the clerk at or before the February meeting, so that we can discuss anything that needs to be discussed in February. I know they're also seeking public views, so perhaps that's something we can get out on social media just to encourage the public to have their opinion on the behaviour of local councillors, or particularly those who aren't doing the job or are acting inappropriately. Anybody want to make any comment on that particular consultation?
well, to be fair, in the past history, in my recent history, I mean, you two have been here since, not quite, but you've seen a few things in your time. There have been moments when something like this would have been very helpful. And I'm talking about between, I joined in 2010, and I came off for a bit, then I came back in. But in that period of time, it's before Emma came, there have been moments when we needed something like this.
I think you only need to watch what happened during lockdown and the infamous video, YouTube video.
I watched that the other day.
You have no authority.
So there you go.
So I'm not doing that because we do have authority here.
Yeah.
And it's so please have a look and
Yeah.
give us your views, but we need to get public views as well, I think. So if we could do something on social media for the February advertiser, so we'll have to use our voices. Next item to receive an update on the Northants conference. And somewhere in here, I've got my report.
Yeah, we saw that. Yeah.
So, the election thing is the most important thing in my view. It would be great if we could get a contested election. We do need to look at new councillors, or just over 3.5 months for them to put their names forward. And I think we need to make, as we've said in section 3 down here, section 2, we've done some work on councillor biopics. Thank you to David, thank you to Rob, and also Ian and Jamie. So hopefully that will encourage others. Just any comments on the election?
Have you had any feedback on those bios, the pen portraits? I mean, as I'm part of NCAG, I'll give you the county picture. If we actually get a contested election, then we've done very well.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
That's what I'm going to say. I don't want to be this short, but that's the point to say.
I think if we can do all that we can, it would be good if we could.
John, is it worth, not now, but thinking forward, to have a stand at one of the farmers markets?
You've got that here.
Oh, I've got that, I've read some of it.
That's one of the things
Right.
we're looking at doing in February and in March.
Oh, okay.
The problem is that there's also a massive issue with the museum. In the fact that people don't volunteer much as they used to. So it's not necessarily the fault of the council or things like that. The museum, you'll see in the next OTC, that there's going to be a piece about the museum because we've lost a few people due to age. And so volunteering, this doesn't get paid. You know, it's like being a chancellor. I love it actually, but it's one of those jobs that we do, and it's a very important job. But it's just trying to get people is very difficult. What certain people.
I think we can do what we can, James.
Just on the point of volunteering, because I think it's Arundel's lucky, put it that way, I think, in terms of its demographic. And if we could have a contested election, I think that would be quite a boon for us as a town. But it also, I think it kind of disagrees with your point about volunteering. I think volunteering is aid and money and life, really. Life these days for young people is very busy. So creating time to do this, or volunteer in a shop, or do field stuff, or whatever it is a massive commitment these days. And I don't think we should underestimate how much we're committing. I think volunteering for something is, and it's about creating the environment where people feel like they can. What's the best word? Contribute in a
Make a difference.
a successful
I agree.
way.
Well done, mate.
Thank you, Jamie. Any other comments?
The latest mini update from NCAP has sent out that have got some sort of dates that you need to think about in it, but there hasn't been any other information come through from,
Which is a bit disappointing.
No,
because
I
the
agree.
impression I got last October was that they would be
yeah.
sending a lot of information out.
There
We're
should-
not there yet. February, March, April.
February, March, April.
Yeah.
April the 2nd's a big day because it's by then we have to have nominations
Yeah.
in. And ideally, if we had a contested election, fantastic. We had more women on the committee, it'd be fantastic. We had more youngsters on the committee, it would be fantastic. But I accept your point. It can be hard.
Yeah.
Other issues on the NCAR?
Sorry.
Onboarding, I noticed you suggested it was going to be a closed initiative, there wasn't enthusiasm. But there still remains a need, I think.
Then absolutely.
I'm very
remains-
conscious that when I joined, I thought on various people's time, above the fact they're already doing council work and all sorts of other things. And I think if there's a buddy system in place, or that felt so demanding, certain individuals like you and Ian. So I do think there's a need. I think it goes hand in hand with wanting to get new councillors. We can't do that without them thinking about the induction process.
So I'm glad you raised it. I was going to raise it anyway. I think it is an example of things which are a good idea, but if we don't get volunteers or we don't get people offering, nothing can happen. And there's only so much pushing one can do and so much offering one can do to run things. And if there's no feedback, then it becomes harder to say, I'm going to keep pushing this without getting any response. Just one moment if I may.
Yeah.
The other two matters as well, so onboarding, training and devolution, all of those matters are being closed, either because they've been resolved or because there's no apparent enthusiasm. David.
Well, just quickly then, 2 points. Devolution. I may have more information.
Okay.
I'm going to a National Assembly meeting online next week where we're discussing it.
Okay.
So I might have something for the next meeting.
All right.
Further,
We go there again.
but onboarding, perhaps. The problem is, again, I've only just about got enough time to do the council duties.
So absolutely.
So asking me to do something else is like, where am I going to find the time to do that? Because I'm stretched. That's my problem. I'm stretched. I do anything out of that. But, But perhaps if we were to, I don't know, but a suggestion would be to ask some of the sort of nice councillors who were ex-councillors to see if they were prepared to just spend a bit of time, because we've got people, if you think about churn that we've had, there's been quite a lot of people who've been through the council process in my time, there's been about 40, 50 people that have been councillors. I mean, there's a churn, in terms of, if you think about it, we've had a number of mayors that were mayors and they've gone now. So there's a load of people in the town who've actually been councillors. And I'm just wondering if we could reach out to them to be a sort of mentor, which is less onerous, and to help, and then they get a feeling of, well, I hope so, but they actually are probably quite experienced. That we've got to be careful, because obviously some people leave the council for different reasons, but some people just retire, and it might be a nice thing to consider, just as thought.
Maybe outside of this meeting, if people can drop me names, I will contact them.
I think
We have actually had mentoring in the
Yes.
past.
Yeah.
Most of these things collapse
but it's nice to get
for the reasons that we've been saying, unfortunately.
Is there anything, if I can get my words together, is there anything anywhere in the files that has been done before? Do you know, Pat?
Well, there was an induction pack that still goes out now, it just goes electronically.
Kind of
But
national.
for men, I've not seen any mentoring.
That was before your time.
I wasn't there 6 months. I just sat there quiet 6 months. Took it all in.
Yeah, well, obviously what most people do. I will, if you give me those names, David, I will contact people and see what happens. Thank you.
Anybody else got them as well, please?
Next item, 241245, to approve the vision statement and agree next steps. Again, that paper has been sent out. I don't intend to read it or go through it. In November, it was agreed by this council we would send it out to the public to give them the chance to comment. It forms a whole page in the December advertiser, and comments I received were a nice round number. Yes, we did it all.
Still going to push it.
So what I'm asking council to do is to approve the vision statement and to agree the next steps. But in doing so, and I hear everything that's been said about the amount of time people have, but if we are going to have a vision, we do need to agree some aims that come out of that vision and some actions behind it. So you have in front of you a vision, you have in front of you aims which are fallen out from that vision. I'm meeting with the council staff on the 21st of Feb, I think. 21st of Feb, to get their input as to how they can contribute towards it. It will need though time from people around this table and people not around this table to help identify what specific goals we should set ourselves as a council. Not necessarily for those individuals to act on those goals, but I think if we're going to have a vision, if we're going to have aims, if we're going to have goals to reach, we at least need to get input from more than 2 or 3 people around the table, because otherwise it's pushing water uphill. So in asking for your approval, I would ask also that you understand that I will be looking for input as well, because otherwise it's not going to happen. It will just be a nice little exercise which goes nowhere. Take comments from around the table, David.
Okay, I'm going to take a slight step back. As you know, I'm a director of NCAP. So NCAP, the good thing about NCAP is you see how things are done properly. Not saying that we don't do it properly, actually I think we do pretty well. But actually, as a director, we have to set targets and everything else. So exactly the sort of thing we're saying about visions. Now, I don't know if this is possible, but what they do to get our creative juices going, we normally have a hybrid meeting and then we have a meeting. So one month we'll have a physical meeting. So all the pressures of time and everything else are gone, because you said, okay, I'm going to commit myself to come somewhere and spend half a day where we do all the things that we want to do, but we can't do because in the normal time, there's no time for it to be done. This is the sort of thing I'm going to suggest. And it's a nice place. We went to Rushden Lakes and went in their conference room and had a nice tea. And, you know, it's just nice. It's the suggestion I had is if we've got a number of things that we need to discuss, not just the vision, but there'll be other things that we as a council are going to step change forward, whatever. This is the place and time to do it. And if we can get used to having a council away day, then people will find time to do it. I mean, I know there's people who work full time here as well, but you do get the opportunity, I've got to go away and do half a day doing that, then that's an opportunity.
Thank you. Other comments, thoughts? In my immediate reaction is, I would love to do that, and I've both participated in and run them, so we could get that sorted. Half a day sounds quite a long time, but I think we could get quite a lot of stuff done. So perhaps in asking for your approval, and it'll have to be properly proposed and seconded, what do people think to that as a suggestion? To actually go away and say, we're going to spend 2 or 3 hours on this and any subsidiary items which come out. What we do is taking a half-day holiday, no, I'm not suggesting for the moment we call it sick, but a half-day holiday for those of us who are still working to invest in looking at how this town council might look at what it does for the town, given the amount of money that they pay us in rates. They don't pay us, we do it voluntarily.
You've got emergency planning,
Possibly. Any thoughts or comments around the table before I put this to a vote? Liz?
No, I think it's
to you, Rob.
I think it's a really good idea, because I think we'll get something out of it.
Okay, thank you.
That's very supportive, sort of thing I do with my company. Thank you. So how we do big particular items, we need to sit in a room away from.
Yeah, because it just sits there, saying the way, isn't it?
And maybe get somebody from the account to
Speak.
facilitate.
Danny would do.
Get somebody to facilitate, because I would have my say too, which will go as far as I know. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I could do that, but it would have to be, I can put this, all kill or no fill. Yeah, if you've got half a day, it's got to be, you've got to get stuff done. Yeah.
Absolutely right. David, what do you want to
I think it's a good idea. Whether, I mean, everything depends on timing.
Yeah.
And we're all talking about this in the abstract.
Yes.
And then you say, can we do it on the next date? And I guarantee you that 2 or 3 people who would probably like to be involved will have a very good reason why they can't be. But in principle, I'm behind it. The only thing I wonder is that 3 months out from the election, are we selecting policies that we expect an incoming council to do, or is this more the sort of thing that should be kicking off the new 4-year council cycle? And I tend towards the latter view, that actually we could talk about it, we could get it set up in principle, we could work out how we think it should be, and then introduce it in effect at our very first council meeting after the election and go from there.
David, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Yes, I've no objection. I mean, I've been to many an away day, I must say, and the nature of a council is slightly different from a company. And there's a kind of runniness. So you've got the old codgers like me and David, and then you've got totally new people. And what you if you're not careful, you've got to really do it awfully well. Otherwise, you get people just reinventing the wheel all the time, which is useless.
Which is why it's useful to have people being around for a while.
We could use that as
Just to answer that, I mean, NCAL is a business, but the directors are made up of councillors and clerks. So it's it's the same people that you would have in the suggestion that I have.
Just a thought, David. I understand exactly what you're saying, but if I'm a new councillor and I joined in May 2025, how much time, how much knowledge, how much information will I have to be able to contribute meaningfully in the first 3 to 6 months? Well, I'm still learning about how the council operates. So my perspective is, particularly if we don't get a contested election anyway, and we've still got many of the same players in May that we do today, do it now. If people later on want to change it, they can. The vision shouldn't change very often at all. The aims shouldn't change very often at all, but the goals can change according to circumstance and should not be set down in stone. They should be guidelines. So I would be keen on this sooner rather than later. In fact, I will argue, if we do it before the election, it allows people coming in to know the kinds of things that they're coming into. The names that we're presenting, and we want people to apply because they might say, I want to be part of that too.
I agree with you.
Thank you. So I'm going to formally propose that the council approves the vision statement and names, and subsequent to this meeting, I'll start to look at how we might take this forward. I'll talk to you about talking to Danny, and then I'll get your input as well. So I'm going to propose, because it's being driven out here, I'm going to propose we accept the vision statement and names. Do I have a seconder? David, thank you. Are we all in favour of that? Great, thank you. Next item, maybe easier. 2412-406, to consider a request from resident to reduce the number of grass cuts on Blackpot Lane. And before I take views, I'll just say that Ian has said he's very much in favour of this. It forms part of a nature corridor, import to nature recovery plan, which links the river, playing fields to SciTech and to Fletton Field. So Ian is very much in favour. Views around the table, please. David?
When I first saw that on the agenda, I thought, it's a mystery. You cannot be anybody wanting to reduce the number of cuts, so I had to go and read it. Because that is literally the first time in 30 odd years on these councils that I've ever had that suggestion. But actually, in context, it's an excellent suggestion and I'm all for it.
Groundbreaking. Wow.
Well, no. I just agree with you totally. I thought exactly the same thing.
Emma?
Yeah, just on that, I think, from having spoken to Tony, I think it's going to be a really good idea. But I think we need to publicise it, and we need to have somebody sign on there saying why it's left, because
Yes.
we will get that.
You'll get that.
Absolutely.
People saying, why is this grass not being cut? So I think, so long as everybody's aware, that's what we need. And it is only a small area. It's not going to have an impact on costs for cutting grass. But we will just need to make sure that people are aware that that bit is being left for a reason.
I think in contrast to the other proposal we've had, we know from the proposal that a number of people along there have been approached and they're all in favour, or they've abstained from their views. So let's do it. David, you wanted to add?
Well, I was just going to say, I went to see Tony the other day, and I walked down there because I normally don't go that way. I normally go above because I used to walk to that part every day because it's part of my school. And in fact, I thought, well, this is like a little nature. It is another green space. I know it's a small one, but actually we have, I don't know, some of the councils don't know this, we are the town in Northamptonshire which has the least amount of green space. This is a fact about Handel. We have the least green space. I mean, you've got the school fields, but they're not part of that. So this is an important point.
Yeah.
So any green space, and this is it's a very pleasant area to be. I'm totally behind it. I think it's brilliant. And then you get to Tony's house, and it's like even more. I was talking to you about it, wasn't I?
Cool, yeah.
I said there's one in green space.
Do you need to make this a formal proposal?
I think if you're all in agreement.
Okay, great.
That's fine.
Move on. Let's move on then to financial matters. First one is to approve the monthly accounts for December 2024. You've got a monthly bank, or the end of the month bank balances. Proposal seconded, please, for this.
I'll propose.
David's happy to propose. I'm happy to second. Val is seconding. All those in favour? Thank you. Payments for December 2024, that the schedule of payments for December 2024 A proposal for that, please. David, thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Liz, thank you. All those in favour? Wonderful, thank you. Next item, 241250. We've had the citizens' advice presentation. People have indicated strong support. We now need to consider that report and consider whether we will approve a one-year budget of £10,500 almost. So views around the table, David.
I'm highly supportive and I'm quite happy to propose it, but with one caveat, and that is that the money is fed to them on a monthly basis, not suddenly give them £10,000. The last time we did that to NCAP, 3 weeks later it went bust. After we take them 7,000 quid. Once bitten, twice shy. I have no reason to believe that the same thing would happen. But there's no reason, as far as I'm aware, that they would need to see all the money up in one go. And so if we funded it on a monthly basis, that would make me happier.
Yeah, I can get them to invoice on a monthly basis. I'm sure they will.
Okay. Well, any other comments? Yes.
My comment is I'm in agreement, totally in agreement. It's a really good thing. I think advertising is key, but also I think we need to kind of ask them what advertising they will do in the villages around, and can they then at the end of the year do a record of roughly where people come from.
Very good. I was going to ask the same, Jenny.
The only question I have is, where is the money coming from, budget-wise?
Thank you.
I suggested that we take it from general reserves.
Basically, we have some.
Approve that tonight, but that's where you're going to take it from.
We have some money left to the community support grant fund. It's nowhere near enough. It's £2,000 or £3,000. If we follow David's suggestion or the proposal he's about to make, we'd be paying on a monthly basis anyway. So we're able to take it in reserve, or we use the balance of the CSG for the rest of this year, because we've only got 4 months left.
Yeah.
And then we use the CSG as part of that for next year. If we need to top that up from general reserves, we can do. But I think anything should be subject to a report at the end of the year. Lots of hands.
Right, just one more thing on that, because if we say we'll support it for the year, can we ask them to then look at other funding if they're going to continue, like I was talking about the Rotary, if it's successful, going outside of charities to part fund it, to take that further?
I'm not sure how that would work if we said we could fund for the year. Are we saying that?
Well, just beyond the year, yes, I'm talking about putting something in that to go beyond that.
Okay.
You know, it'd be good if they look at funding to support, if we do then match fund or something like that a year later.
We need to think about how we propose that. Rob?
Realistically, the pilot was helpful because we had the figures to understand the affordable. Can we ask they do the same? I assume they would, but we need to clarify they would do the same to monitor use in the first year, which would then feed into your points about sustainable services.
Yeah, you could probably ask for that quarter for something.
It's just a logistical comment, because I don't know, I know we may have been told, but are they in a hot desk or are they having an office?
No, they sit in the hub.
They'll just sit in the hub.
Yeah, that's where they stand. And that's where they sit for the food bank. The only reason that we can't we can't use that facility on the same day is that is funded, and the food bank can't allow them to see anybody else other than referrals from the food bank. We did try, and we tried to join together, but they can't.
Difficult logistically, David.
We're talking about grants. Now, obviously, they can look for grants. Is there anything that we can do, like a community? I don't know anything about grant land.
I don't think we could look.
Not like a community grant, because this is a community. This is something for the community to help support them. And I'm just wondering, if you don't know, if we did an exercise of just exploring what's out there to reduce our outlay by having a grant come in. But if there's nothing, there's nothing. And we're there.
I can have a look. I would doubt that there would be, because we are a council. If we were a charity looking to get them in, then we would, but I don't think for us to get money to pay for them, as that service to come in.
Well, I fully support it, and I fully support it, fully funding it, to
It's
be
like
honest.
they just be passed through and they go to the original grant
Yeah.
bottom for the programs. James?
Just one point on being in the hub. Often, in my experience of going to the Citizens Advice Bureau, it can often be a personal matter you're talking about. So talking about it in the hub is not necessarily a perfect, it's quite an open space. Is there any way we would make provision for privacy? Yeah, essentially.
The Gostock room is generally mostly available. If that wasn't available, then we would, if whatever room is available, we'd say just go in there.
Brilliant.
They didn't ask, through that pilot period, they didn't ask, and the food bank referrals based it, and have been doing probably for about the last 6 months.
But I do think that needs to be factored in.
Definitely, yeah.
I've used Citizens Advice and sometimes I don't want to shout it to them.
So there's a privacy options.
Yeah.
So in view of that, David, do you want to adapt your proposal?
There's so many different strands, well, there's so many different strands to that. So I propose that we fund Citizens Advice Bureau for a 12-month period in the sum of £10,497.94 to be paid to them in equal monthly instalments, to request that they provide us with a quarterly report on their activity, particularly indicating the generic areas from where their clients come.
Yes, I think that's important.
Okay, that's the proposal.
And the privacy.
Well, I think that's more an internal thing for us, I think.
I second it.
Seconded proposal, all those in favour? Fabulous, thank you very much.
It's
And that's,
Next item, 12504, to approve the insurance quote for Handle Town Council. And Ian asked whether this covers cancellation for events.
Just can I just say, we are in a 3-year agreement with them that was approved, so this is why we only have this.
But we need approval. Does it include cancellation of events?
Sorry?
Ian's asked if it includes cover for cancellation of events. I didn't see that cover.
No.
Questions? Okay, approval.
Just on one, there is a difference. We have got extra cover. I don't know if you noticed that. Just quickly, the reason why, whilst having a conversation with our insurance broker about the cancellation of the Christmas market, I have to just throw in there that we've got a fund there and various things. And she said, I didn't realise that we don't insure that. I said, yes, I know that, but we always ask that they have their own insurance. And then she said, the thing is, if you have an event, you have a fun fair or whatever, and something goes wrong, and for whatever reason they haven't been paying their insurance, or their insurance company won't pay up, invariably you might be the next person that the person will come to. So that's why that's.
I was delighted to see it in because actually there's a reputational damage as well. So I think it should be in there. So I'm happy to propose that. Do I have a second? David Fuller, thank you. All those in favour? Wonderful, thank you. Similarly, insurance quote for the OTC vehicles. Again, unless there are any questions, I'm going to move straight to the proposal. David's proposing. Do I have a seconder? Well, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Next item under finance, to approve a resolution that the council maintains a reserve balance of 6 months.
So suggest you maintain a reserve balance of 6 months only. Does that mean that as soon as we pass it, we're going to have to spend the surplus immediately? Would it not be better to say that we have to retain a minimum balance of 6 months only? And then we're free to spend the money as we see fit, when we see fit, down to that figure, rather than set it as some sort of target figure, then only we do when the monies are above it.
And sometimes we may need to have more than 6 months.
So it's possible,
we might
right?
got
So I'm quite
next week, something might crop up.
Yeah, quite.
subject to that. I'm happy with it.
Thank you. Any other comments on the proposal? So with the addition to the word minimum, reserve balance of 6 months, and the addition of the word normal, so that proposal becomes the council normally maintains a minimum 6 months reserves, a reserve balance of 6 months. Delete the word only. That's a proposal. David, thank you. Seconded Val. All those in favour? Thank you. Next one's an interesting one. Earlier on this evening,
Yes, I know.
so we as a council, not as trustees, now have to decide whether we will be able to approve any request for a digital financing grant of £15,000 in the knowledge that if we don't pay it, we're going to let QBH go bust.
I propose not
Go
really.
bust.
Secondly,
Thank you. Proposed David, seconded David. All those in favour? Thank you.
Just
Yes.
in theory, if we said no to that, what would happen?
The trustees would be in quite a bit of trouble.
Okay.
And you are the trustees.
Yes.
I mean, what we would, if it wasn't approved.
Well, the
we
trust,
would-
you're not, yeah.
the trust would, we would go ahead with the painting of the building, we would go ahead with the painting of the notice board, which is actually an Abington Town Council notice board. We wouldn't go ahead with the,
Wi-Fi.
yes,
we
we
have
would
to
go
go.
ahead with Wi-Fi, we would go ahead
We have to
with
do
something else necessary.
We also would be able to pay our electric and gas bills.
More importantly, we would
I don't know.
be able to go in.
Yeah.
So it's a valid question.
Yeah.
Final item under financials, to receive the interim audit report for the 2025-2026 financial year. Is that right? Should it be 24-25? We are into the financial year. If we change this to the audit report for 24-25, are we?
Yes, we're just proceed.
We're just receiving it out. I've just changed it on
So-
1 minute.
Thanks to all of those involved for their foresight. Moving on to highways matters, 24126, to receive the speed indicator device report. Ian has wants to draw attention to the effect of the warning on West Street speed, which has been, in his eyes, reduced. We've seen very low speeds on there. I've seen people slowing down as I walk on West Street. Anybody want to make any comment on the SID report?
Apart from I'm glad they're where they are.
Can I say something on the Gatthorne Road? Is it worth asking our local police in town to look at the times that they're exceeding, which is quite scary, because it's the
I don't
morning,
believe that.
and do you know, okay, that's not what I meant, if it is.
I can't believe.
Or is it a police car?
And the thing calibrating, because I don't believe that somebody who's doing 100 miles an hour down that road doesn't work. But it's only 85% accurate.
85% accurate, 100%
So
accurate.
I can't believe somebody's struggling.
Do you have to-
So there are some anomalies.
It's the post office thing again, that it's not always 100% accurate, okay? So when you get these anomalies, they are anomalies, generally speaking.
But we're not going to let the Japanese. 24127 planning matters. To receive the minutes from the planning committee held on the 7th of January 2025. We did receive those late through illness. So I'm going to ask David, are there any matters that need to be brought to the council's attention?
I don't think so. Anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer.
Seeing none, move on to the Estates Committee. To receive the minutes and report from the Estates Committee for the meeting held on the 7th of January. Before I ask Jamie to take this one, Ian wanted to highlight he started a playground conversation, which is slightly dubious. I'm sure that's all in good.
Is it to do with the playground near me, down New Road? It needs, yes.
Jamie, do you want to add anything or draw people's attention
I'm
to
not, honestly, not really. I don't think it's more with, there's lots of things in the works, but I would say there's not anything we made a concrete decision on.
Yeah, nothing to
Is
touch.
there anything likely to come up in the next one for people to be aware of?
We did talk about spending some of the playgrounds budget in this financial year.
Okay, good.
That is a piecemeal approach, such that we do some work this year and some work into next year. The intention is to do it properly, the full time.
It's like a PVH.
QEH. So I'm asking the residents in the Christopher Drive area what to do with that kind of playground based on the quotes we have. Ian said he would do likewise at the rec. But it just might be a phase approach, some issue, something to next. So there's a bit of urgency on some of those initial.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Nothing else to add? Any questions of the Estates Committee? Seeing none.
Keep up the good work.
Markets Working Party, so 24129101, to consider report on installing electricity on the marketplace for market traders and agree next steps. Ian has been dealing with this and making real progress with the school to have an electricity supply from Branston House. A number of steps need to be gone through, formal quote for work to be done, check we've got adequate public liability cover, check planning consents required, obtain written agreements for connection between us and Branston, making sure the traders who use it have got proper cables and properly maintained, properly tested, especially when wet, confirmation of trip hazards and all that kind of stuff. So there's a whole bunch of things still to be done. Ian's working very hard on this, working with the school very closely on this. What he asks for is approval of the next steps, which is basically to do all the stuff that I've done. No money is being spent, no indications of money or promises of money being spent are being given because it's a council decision, but Ian needs council approval to continue the work that he's been doing. So I'll take questions around the table and then we'll move on to approval. David.
No, I'm approving it. I'm proposing that we approve it.
Do we have any questions or comments first? Wonderful. Proposed by David F. Do we have a seconder? Liz, thank you. I'm going to guess we're all in favour of this because it's a good thing
No,
to
no.
be doing. Brilliant. On the same area, 24109 made very much money. Ian's thinking, which I am supportive of, is that if we give them some financial support by not charging them, it's going to make more likely to run people when it's cold. Jenny.
Define cold, I guess. No, I mean, is it a? Temperature?
I think you have to do
You also might have, rainy days where it's chucking in storms and
Yeah.
could they then argue they're going to get people aren't
Yeah.
going to come out and so they need another payment holiday?
Or if it's too hot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, too hot, it's not an issue.
And
I thought,
should market traders take over with the smooth? I'll come to you in a moment, David.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I find it difficult to get much enthusiasm for that. I think it's an administrative nightmare for all the reasons that have become apparent in the last sort of minute. And also, it makes it extremely difficult from our point of view to budget, because we don't know whether we're going to get any receipts from the market or not. And actually, it's a not insignificant part of our income. I think market traders have been trading in all weathers for as long as anybody can remember, probably back to 900 and whatever it was to transport.
Yeah.
And I think it just has to be accepted. Some days the weather will be inclement, the numbers will be down. Other days it will swing the other way, and it all swings around a bit.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think from a shop point of view, you have good days, bad days. And the weather doesn't help. So that's kind of just the way it is, unfortunately.
It's the way it is. Rob, and then Val, and then Liz.
Agree with the previous points. I think it's a workable idea. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Wonderful. Val.
Things are the wrong way round. I mean, we shouldn't be paying them to come here, they pay us to come here. We're doing them a favour, we're allowing them to trade. I know that that's the theory of it.
Yeah.
You might say, well, it doesn't quite work like that, but it would cost us, in administering it would cost us more than we would anybody would.
That point's been made.
My
Liz.
only thought was if this was around loyalty, so that that they would keep coming back, whether you did, you know, you were on the market for 12 months, you only paid 11 months, you got the last month free, and covering all those other months. That's just an idea.
That's an idea which would be a different proposal. But we'll take it and we'll consider that.
We do offer that, the farmers market, if they pay for the whole year, they only pay all 10 months.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, if they pay monthly, if they don't come and give us good notice, we don't charge them. So, and that's the same really with the Thursday market, they don't pay annually, but if they give us notice and can't come, we don't charge them. So they do get, you know, that benefit.
Thank you, Bob.
Just to follow on this is fundamentally about reward, loyalty, but it can't be the expense of seeming desperate. And that doesn't like the purpose of an outdoor market. So I think there's alternative ways of stimulating.
Well, just
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not even going to put this to the vote.
No need to.
We'll move on. Thank you all for your input. We can feed that back to Ian. But certainly as two of the markets working group here, I think we're on the same page. 24130 Communications Working Party to receive the latest AMDA advertiser article. David?
I just want to formally sing the praises of Rebecca, and I'd like us as a council to do so. I think we're very lucky to have her. I think her capabilities have grown as she's grown into the role, and I think she does a fantastic job. So I'd like to propose that we formally thank Rebecca for her work.
I think we can do that.
So I'm proposing it.
Somebody? Everybody object? All in favour? Yeah. Okay, done. Thank you, David.
No, thank you.
24131 Transport Working Party to receive a verbal update from Ian. I think the only update is that since December, when we last gave a report, the Transport Working Party, which is effectively Ian and Liz and me, Ian and possibly you, Liz, are going to meet with Keir and the NNC on the 12th of February to discuss road improvements. No formal proposal on that, but discussions will be held and a report will come back to council later. He does ask for request for approval for quotes for additional 20-mile-an-hour signs. So I don't know that he needs to request approval to get quotes. He can get quotes anyway, so unless anybody objects, I think we just agree he gets the quotes and then we can discuss whether we want them later on. Well, any other matters, relevant matters for report only? I'll go around the table. Liz?
The only thing I wanted to raise was the ship pub, which we all adore. Is the state of the alleyway next to the ship pub, and at front, after they've had kind of Friday and Saturday nights, there's often a lot of glass down there, broken glass. And I kind of feel that, I don't know where we're reporting it, but whether that's something for later that we could do a gentle kind of, we're really keen to support the new ownership. Can you just tidy it up, or is it more north? Is it the bigger council not that should be onto that?
The alleyway is my responsibility, so I would say it would be a North Northampton council.
I just wonder whether it was a thing that the council could quietly just say, we really welcome you.
Just a quiet word to say.
Yeah, we really welcome them because they're new, aren't they? They've been taken over.
Well, the ownership is new at the start of the
Yeah, the staff the same.
Whether it's a word the letter, we can draft a letter to them.
Sorry, this look what's next to the
Next to the owners, Punch Taverns, and say, you know, we can make something up. So, yeah. Thank you, Liz. Anything else? No. Rob? Jane?
No.
David C. David F.
No,
Order. The next item is a special confidential nature business item. So it's advisable of public interest, publicly temporarily excluded and instructed to withdraw. Do we need to vote on that?
yes, the proposal second.
Proposed David, F, seconded Val, all those in favour? Wonderful. Do I draw this meeting to a close? Thank you.